All right, time for the shine, which this week is Dynamite, as usual. Lots of good this week. Claudio and Castagnoli and Pac met Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy in the opener. Started hot. Good old fashioned chaos. The Death Riders, which is their name now, they finally settled on the Death Riders. They're not the BCC anymore. They're not
Yep.
this nebulous, what are we thing? They are the Death Riders. They come out first through the crowd as usual, and they're standing in the ring. And then Orange Cassidy comes out, and he just kind of taunts them from the set. And so Pac and Claudio look at each other, and they're like, "Well, he's alone. Let's go kick the crap out of him." But before they can do that, Darby Allin, who had been hiding on top of the tunnel, comes out and just throws his body at them, like
Like
Darby
he
Allin is
does.
wont to do. Um, yeah, so it just started with this wild brawl that lasted for a few minutes before it spilled back into the ring. Both of them, both Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin, take turns both playing playing the babyface in peril and the one to get a hot tag. So it protects both of them, which is always good because they're going to need Darby down the line. Um, but eventually, Cassidy hits orange punches all around, prompting ineffective interference from Wheeler Yuta, but effective interference from Marina Shafir and John Moxley. And the ref just throws the whole thing out. It's an implied disqualification win for Cassidy and Allen. They like to do these schmaz things where, they throw it up, but it's like, come on. There was only one person who drew, one team that drew a disqualification. And it sure as heck wasn't Orange Cassidy and Darby Allen. So as far as
Right.
I'm concerned, whether it's official or not, the baby faces won this by DQ.
Okay.
I actually like the DQ here. They don't usually use a DQ except for specific purposes in AEW. It lends more of a chaotic feel to the Death Riders. You never really know when they're going to interfere and when they're not. And since they don't use it often, it can kind of be their thing. Like, this is the only group where you're going to have DQ finishes from all the interference, and it's going to cause chaos. Like, the DQ finish can almost be a kind of gimmick for the Death Riders in a certain extent, because unlike Raw from 2019, not every finish is a freaking DQ or count out or whatever where you expect it. It's unexpected enough in AEW as a rule that you can get away with something like that here. The beatdown continues until the rest of the conglomeration shows up, chases everybody out, but not before Claudio just he press slams Darby Allin into the ring post. He
Ooh.
running starts. He runs halfway down the length of the ring and then just chucks poor Darby right into the ring post, completely unprotected. His ribs must be killing him right now. I'm wondering if maybe they're doing this to Darby on purpose. Like, they know they want to save him as the eventual guy to beat Moxley, but they can't have him be so involved in it early on, because then you're asking, why isn't he the one doing it now?
Mhm.
So he'll show up when he's healthy and then just continue to get thrown into things that injure him, for weeks at a time to kind of
Mhm.
delay the inevitable. And in the meantime, other challengers can kind of slot into that, thereby delaying Darby and writing him out of that prime spot for the moment.
Mhm.
If that's the case, I mean, it's my personal opinion that Darby Allin must be thinking of different ways every single time he enters a ring to creatively get destroyed. So it definitely serves to accentuate his positives.
Yeah.
Uh, I worry about the dude's long term health. I didn't want him going up to Everest, so I wanted him to be around to actually beat Moxley. So let's just hope he doesn't get beat up too much. Uh, Directly after this was the Learning Tree versus the Conglomeration, and you know, uh, I know I've been down on Jericho for the TV time that he takes up and stuff like that, and his positioning, but I have to say, honestly, once you put him in the ring in these no DQ situations where multi-man situations where his age isn't so readily apparent and he can kind of rely on some of the gimmicky stuff around and the other people around him to
Mm-hmm.
do some smoke and mirrors stuff to kind of hide his age.
Yeah.
He's actually really good in the role. Like he is like in those little spots, you know, this was a crazy fight without honor, and I gotta say, this gets a thumbs up from me too. Like it was, they protected Bill here really really well. They continued to protect Big Bill. I think down the line, they probably are thinking of strapping him up at some point with like the TNT title or the international title or something like that, because they are protecting him so hard. Like he's being protected like a big man of his size should. To the point where the only way that they actually he cleared the ring of the baby faces a couple of times, but he was only taken out when he was fighting with Kyle O'Reilly out towards the fans, and in one of those little where the stairs are and there's the little overhang where there were some tables set up and one of those big travel crates there. He got up on the travel crate with him and he was attempting to choke slam Kyle O'Reilly through that, but Kyle countered with a guillotine choke and they both went through. So they were both eliminated, but what that really meant is that Big Bill was finally eliminated from the equation.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it was, I wouldn't say it was academic, but it was far more of a babyface controlled thing. They teased the finish with Briscoe hitting a froggy bow on Jericho from the top of a ladder inside the ring, which looked insane. I mean, I bid on it. I totally thought that was going to be the finish, but Brian Keith comes in, I think, with a kendo stick and beats the crap out of him. But it wasn't long before Ishii got rid of him too, and Ishii is the one who picks up the pinfall victory on Chris Jericho with a sliding lariat and a brainbuster. I'm a huge fan of Tomohiro Ishii. Have him be the next challenger for the Ring of Honor world title, so that Jericho isn't just like one of those guys who wins it and then loses it in his first defense. I hate that. Even with champions I don't particularly care for, it's like if you're going to give him the belt, at least let him defend it successfully once, just so to make him look more credible. And beating Tomohiro Ishii, the way he's been booked by Tony Khan, who clearly adores the guy and his work, that will mean something to this audience. So that gets a thumbs up for me too. The development on the Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, MJF storyline, the match with Cole and Black was okay. Honestly, it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be or hoping it was be, but the angle afterward more than made up for it, because not only did it clarify, I think what was probably a misexplanation of it from the beginning. What it was described as at the beginning of the storyline was the first one of Adam Cole and Roderick Strong to get 3 wins. 3 consecutive wins would face MJF, when it's just if either one of them gets 3 wins. It doesn't have to be the first one to do it. It's not a race to 3. It's just if they can get 3 consecutive wins, either one of them, they'll get there.
So
which makes more sense. Which makes more sense because like what, were you going to have Adam Cole and Roderick Strong have 2 matches at the same time? Like I mean, whoever was booked to go last was automatically it didn't make sense. So they clarified this. It was just the first one of those guys to get 3, or whichever one of those guys rather was getting 3 wins would face MJF. And they further clarified that Roderick Strong had talked to Tony Khan about if they both got 3 wins, then they would make that a 3-way match. Don't know why he started with 3-way instead of being talked into a 3-way down from a handicap match. That would have made, I think, a little more sense. But I think maybe that's just broadcasting the turn. I mean, that probably, I mean, I kind of don't want that, because honestly, I'm kind of digging babyface Roddy. His work as a babyface in this run, 2 matches in, has been stellar. Really, honestly, like his matches, and we'll get to his second match later.
Yeah.
But like his matches have been fantastic. The one with Shane Taylor, the one with Mortos on Collision this week. I mean, as a babyface, he's worked so well. It just as effectively as he has been a heel this almost his entire AEW run. So I think he's one of those Swiss Army knife players. You can pretty much plug him in to whatever you need from him. He's got the tools,
Yeah.
So MJF at this news was cinematically. I assume that they planned this thing out and filmed all of his little cinematic things where he's alone in his house watching wrestling, drinking wine or whatever. I assume that they did this all in one shot because I think he's wearing the same thing every time, and it doesn't really make sense that they would shoot this over multiple days.
Yeah.
If they already knew the story beats that were going in. But he makes a phone call after after finding out this news and starting to seethe. That would pay off later. It turns out that he has a big dude in a suit at his beck and call, nameless dude in a suit. He must have been somewhere nearby because he was able to get the Dynamite Diamond ring from MJF in the span of like a half an hour. So he must have been near Connecticut somewhere. But he basically bribed Don Callis for the third guys that Roddy and Cole face to be members of the Don Callis family. So that set up Adam Cole versus Konosuke Takeshita next week, which I am super excited about, although I don't know what they're going to do because it's a non-title match and both of those guys need the win. The unpredictability makes it good. I mean, for all I know, they could go with Roddy here and then just draw it out. They could do that. Just have it be Roddy and have MJF get the win over Roddy, and then Cole later down the line get a match so as to draw the story out. I don't know. I like that I don't know. I like it. I like the story they're telling. So, yeah, I'm all for that. On the flip side of things, Penelope Ford versus Jamie Hayter was good, but, like, it's the first time in AEW, in a long time in AEW, that I can think of that a match that wasn't specifically a squash match didn't get interrupted by a commercial break, which means that it was too short. Like, these girls, they put on a good match for what it was, but it was way too short. Like, I wanted more from Jamie. I wanted more from Penelope. I like both these ladies, and I think it's just especially egregious when it involves the women's division to not have the match of that length. Like, if you do it for one of the men's matches, okay. I mean, you don't do it that often, it's fine. But when you're only going to have one match featuring the women on the card, and that's the one that gets truncated, I think that's a bad look. Like, there's been a lot of work that's gone into rebuilding the women's division up to a level closer to where it should be over this year for AEW, and I do feel that they should continue to be commended for that. I feel like this was just a bit of a step back because as good as the match was for what it was, it could have been better if it had given more time. So yeah. I really want to hope. I want to hope that it was just time constraints or whatever, and that somebody's segment went long or something like that. Like, I mean, that's still not great, but I want to hope that the original plan was to give it more time. So that's what I'm going to hold on to. Positive thoughts. And then Matt, the show ended with Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita versus Ricochet and a mystery partner. And we talked about this last week. I thought the layup choice would be either Mark Davis or Will Ospreay, and they totally didn't do that. They brought back Powerhouse Hobbs.
Dude, when he said he's a little bit miffed, I looked at my wife and I go, it's Powerhouse Hobbs. Holy shit. And the thing went pow. I was like, vindication.
And the crowd popped huge for it too.
Oh God,
they
it was so
absolutely
awesome.
Loved it. It injected a lot of intensity to this match that it really helped. And honestly, like, we've seen some people come back from injury and kind of, have to get over the ring rust. Powerhouse didn't look like he lost a step. He was in there. It was as if he came back 3 months ago and had been wrestling
Killed
this whole time. He looked insanely, just on point. Now all we need to do is get that Meat Madness match finally made, Tony. I want it. I want. They were chanting meat for him and Takeshita. I want it. Give me what I want. Give me what I want.
Give me what I want.
The win eventually comes when Ricochet hits that new like half hidden blade thing that he hits with the elbow instead of the swiping. He's calling that the spirit gun. And he hits Takeshita with that and pins the international champion clean. Not a huge finish of that, but I mean, somebody had to take the pin.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost a given that Ricochet's not winning the belt, which is fine because Takeshita should have a long reign. They've built him up so much that, good Lord, give the man his flowers. So, I mean, that the match itself that they're building to will be insane. And I'm really looking forward to it. After the match, Davis does make an appearance to try and make the save when Fletcher tries to take everybody out with the chair. Adam Cole comes out to lead Takeshita away, to build for their match next week. But the rest of the family comes out, and as soon as Fletcher is about to hit, I believe it was Davis, with the screwdriver, that's pretty much pointing to a return there. Ospreay does come out. Didn't expect him. Once they brought Powerhouse Hobbs, I'm like, okay, well, they're still selling it. Nope. Will Ospreay's still here. And the baby faces clean house, and all in all, just great stuff. It pulled a lot of threads together into one big yarn ball of great wrestling. And I can't really ask for more than that. I thought it was a great show with the exception of just like, do better for your women. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the general consensus I've been seeing even online is like they just need more time. And like I know there was a guy earlier, he posted like I don't know if people are gonna ostracize this guy or not, and I hope not. And I can't remember what the name of the account is, and I'm not gonna contribute to his ostracization because I thought it was a good point he made. He just posted the timing of the three companies of the time that they gave women across all of their programming for the week. And despite despite the seemingly deeper wrestling fandom having a bit of a adverse relationship with WWE, they are far and away giving their women the most time.
Even more than TNA, really?
Yeah, like
TNA
something to the
TNA's
order of,
traditionally been very, very invested in its knockouts division.
TNA is giving more time than AEW is, but WWE is giving more time than TNA by at least a half an hour across the program.
TNA also only has one show.
That's true. That's true.
So,
but they have one show and they're giving more time to their women than AEW is.
Yeah.
And AEW has 3 shows.
Yeah.
And now I'm not like I said, we don't complain without offering some, some construction on this.
Yeah.
Just give the women more time. I think that's a very simple answer. Like
somebody else, I mean, it's kind of a pointless thing to bring up because it's pretty obvious that Rampage is getting canceled. But somebody on it wasn't Blue Sky yet. It was somebody on my Twitter feed proposed just making Rampage a women-centric show, and I'm
not opposed.
I'd
watch it.
It's a question of what is more important. The time given to women in general, and this would be helping them with that, or if you just throw them on their own show, does that make them lesser than the men's action? I think the only way that you really do it is to make that a women's centric show, or even do the reverse, have like only one men's match on that show, and then like one women's match on the main shows, and then the rest of Rampage be like women's centric, like three women's matches and one on men's on Rampage, and then the inverse on the other shows.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe even I would go so far as to say even keep the status quo on Dynamite and Collision, and then just give them the third show. There are so many like they're telling a lot more stories in the women's division than they're telling in the undercard of AEW. Like they're
Yeah,
telling a lot, like they're telling a lot more cohesive stories. People like Deanna and Taya need a place to
yeah,
flourish with their little mafia thing. Maybe add a couple ladies to it.
yeah.
But
I
they
think they
need
should.
that, you know.
It
But
can't just
they
be the two of them.
no, it's not a
No,
mafia.
the
It's just two
vendetta should
guys.
be bigger.
Yeah, but so it like I would go so far as to even just give them the whole show. But and here's maybe the kicker to that is that I don't always watch Rampage.
Yeah.
But if you told me there's a about a 75% chance I'm going to see Willow Nightingale on Rampage,
Mm.
I might go ahead and just watch Rampage.
I
You
think
know,
too that it would force them because I mean, right now there are stories up and down, that don't necessarily involve titles, but that's not always the case. If
no,
you put them on a show where it's at least mostly, if not entirely, women centric, then that forces them to come up with stories that don't revolve around the belts
yeah.
for the women. And I think that in and of itself is reason enough. I mean, you've got this entire roster of women, and like, whoever's in the world title picture and the TBS title picture gets stories, and then usually there's one, maybe two other stories going on, and then a whole bunch of mid to lower card women who don't have anything to do but put each other over
Mm-hmm.
endlessly. So it would, if they had that time, it would force them to craft something for them. Even if they're bad stories is better than languishing in catering.
I
So
still go see my local indie, and they got terrible stories. So I
yeah,
mean, I'm not gonna name
yeah,
which one. There's like seven here, so I'm clear. I don't have to like
yeah,
pinpoint which one, but there, I still go. I still pay the ticket, but the stories
yeah.
aren't there. But you just the
Although to
women
be
just need
fair,
more time.
on the indies, stories are less important
Mm,
because they don't have serial, episodic TV. It's like
yeah, that's true.
I have a show once a month. Okay, the story is okay. You won a match to be crowned number one contender to this title.
Next
That's
month we're gonna have a
basically the
match.
story. Yep. Next time we're gonna have a
Yeah,
match.
yeah, that's pretty. I
You
mean, that is the
you're
limitation of the
you're
indie.
gonna do your own promos on your own time. We're not gonna pay you for it.
Yeah, and then half
you
the time
know,
they're not gonna do them. Uh, I will tell you, man. Whew, getting up.
stories are much less important on the indies than they are when you have TV. TV, it's necessary.
Yes, but yeah, I mean, I think the solution is just give the women more time, and I think they should get more time. This isn't a like the division is bad because you don't give them
No,
time. No, it's fantastic. Please give them
no,
more time. Like,
yeah, yeah. You've got so much talent there. You've got a
yeah,
really kind of. I think the roster is deceptively deep, and it's deceptively to the outside eye that's not familiar with AEW because they don't get the time to show how deep their division is,
no, they don't. They don't. There's
and that's
plenty
all
of
there is
ladies
to
sitting
it.
on the bench week to week that
Now, like I
can
said, the
definitely,
good thing is
yeah.
that up until this week, they've been better. They've not been peak. They haven't been great
Mm-hmm.
with time, but they've been better. This week was rough on time for the ladies. My heart goes out to them because all they want to do is go out and live their dreams, and they'll be like, "Huh." You'll see. I mean, I'll talk about it in a few minutes with Collision too. So,
Mm-hmm.
but on that note, maybe we should get to the Morton, huh?